Today we are going to go through the last part of the story of The Eyes Have It by the eminent writer Ruskin Bond, where the lines between dream and reality are clearly drawn. And this short story is intended to leave us with a very strong moral lesson that it is better, always better, to be a real person in life than an imagined one. Now, till here, we have already come to know that Bond relates the blind man's short of a journey whose meeting with another blind young girl passenger to be actually mildly hypocritical, as to hand the blind man a tract on keeping what? A lie of light, that we can say, as they got out of their conversation on their way to where? On their way to Missouri. So let us now continue with the lines further, girls. I'll start with: the engine's whistle shrieked, the carriage wheels changed their sound and rhythm. The girl got up and began to collect her things. Now she was to get off at Saharanpur, remember that? And her aunt most probably was to receive her over there. So she started to collect her things just to get off the train, as the train slowly was coming to her destination. Now the change in the rhythm corresponds to the rhythm in the narrator's life. It's a very dark, lonely world for him, right, girls? Isn't it? A person who is blind, a person who cannot see, it's a very, very dark and lonely world out there. And in his lonely, dark world, the unknown stranger, right from the very beginning, that is the young girl, brought a very thrilling joy to him. But as the train stopped, he realized that he would once again be all alone in that very dark world. It had come to an end. His thrilling journey had come to an end. Thus, the author here very symbolically relates it that the change of rhythm, the carriage wheels change their sound and rhythm, influence the narrator very, very much. The next line, girls. I wondered if she wore her hair in bun or if it was plaited. Perhaps it was hanging loose over her shoulders. Or was it cut very short? Here we get to realize how much the narrator was charmed by the girl. And the narrator realized that himself also. And that made him wondering if she had kept her hair in a bun, or it was plaited, or it was kept loose. He just kept guessing on. Now the narrator was most probably lost in a dream. Okay. The train drew slowly into the station. Outside, there was the shouting of porters and vendors and a high-pitched female voice near the carriage door. That voice must have belonged to the girl's aunt. Ruskin Bond is an artistic author, you might say. Okay, he portrays here a very, very realistic picture of the railway station when the train stops there. Porters and vendors, as we also find it, shout their usual trade cry to announce their presence in service of the passengers of the train, isn't it? It is a commotion, it is a place of utter commotion and chaos once a train stops at any railway station. Relatives and others wait for their near ones or to receive their guests. So, this is a very common sight that we all see on a railway platform. Goodbye, the girl said. She was standing so very close to me, so close that the perfume from her hair was tantalizing. I wanted to raise my hand and touch her hair, but she moved away. Only the scent of perfume still lingered where she had stood. Now, it is also noticeable, girls, that Bond is using the narrator's other senses in the story, particularly the smell. Similarly, it is also noticeable that the narrator has a very strong desire to touch the young woman's hair as she stood very close to him. And we can feel that, right? Through the lines, I wanted to raise my hand and touch her hair. That feeling, he wanted to have that. But she moved away. Only the scent of perfume. That is why Ruskin Bond says that he uses his other senses very well, particularly the smell. Only the scent of perfume still lingered where she had stood. He had a strong desire to touch the young woman's hair as she should stood very close to him. Such is the favorable perspective of the young woman. So strong was the presence of that young woman to the narrator. It is as though that the narrator is attempting to paint a picture of the young woman for himself. And why do we say that? Because it is based on what he can smell and feel. And this could be important as the narrator appears to be compensating for his inability to see and seems to be doing it so successfully, as he really wanted to feel the hair of that very young lady. There was some commotion in the doorway. A man getting into the compartment stammered an apology. Stammered to say an apology when you are saying sorry to someone. Then the door banged and the world was shut out again. I returned to my berth. The guard blew his whistle and we moved off. Once again, I had a game to play and a new fellow traveler. Now, the girl had got off the train at Saharanpur, and there she had her aunt to receive her, and that we get to know through the line, a high pitched female voice near the carriage door. That voice must have belonged to the girl's aunt. It was only after she left and another passenger came into the compartment that the narrator was broken from his reverie. Okay, she had got down and a new passenger had boarded the train, and there was some confusion over there. because of which the narrator got to know that the new fellow passenger just apologized, and then it was completely shut down. It was completely the same boredom that had set in. And that commotion over there broke the narrator's reverie. Now, what is a reverie? A reverie means a daydream. Now, in the present context, girls, reverie could be concerned with the narrator's lingering over the brief encounter with the girl who had just departed. So he was just enjoying it in his dream, and that new co-passenger broke that. Okay, the reverie that he was just enjoying came to an end as the new traveler entered, and the first thing he said was, what did he say to the narrator? You must be disappointed. He said, I'm not nearly as attractive a traveling companion as the one who just left. A very unusual comment from a co passenger who had just boarded the train. And through this, the narrator also gets to know that yes, the girl was quite a pretty one, the girl was quite a attractive one. Ruskin Bond very cleverly keeps our pulse high with the narrator's attempts to escape the chances of being caught by the girl's smart questions and remarks. Isn't it, girls? You can understand that really he always keeps us in a very, what to say, in a very uh, fixed position to understand that the girl, did she really get hold of the fact that the narrator was blind? Now, with a limited set of three characters, the narrator, okay, who was the second one? The girl and the new passenger. It illustrates Bond's art of simplicity and universality. Now, only three characters in a story, just to think of it, girls, that forms the very firm structure of the story, isn't it? Only with these three main characters, it ends with a striking discovery. That is why previously I had said that here there are many twists and turns that you will enjoy, because the story here we are finding slowly it ends with a very, very striking discovery, and its plot is well knit. It is full of ironical twists and turns, not simple ones, but very ironical. The blindness is contrasted to the beauty of Missouri. Now, there is real humor in the narrator's attempt to conceal his blindness, no doubt about it. There is real humor over there. But his humor takes an ironical turn when he discovers that the girl is blind too. And that is really very surprising. If the third person in the story is everyone, okay, listen to this very carefully, okay, see whether you can really understand this, what I'm saying. If the third person in the story, third person was the new co-passenger who boarded the train at Saharanpur, remember? So if the third person in the story is everyone, everyone means normal person, okay, who are really gifted by God. The train is no more, we can say, an ordinary train, but a journey of what? Journey of life. We can also say, girls, that this end of the story is very interesting, as Bond appears to be exuding further irony in the story. Now, what is irony? Why am I repeating the word irony again and again? So, we need to know first that what is really an irony, and how does Bond introduce this irony in his story? You might get questions from here also. Okay, bring out the irony of the story that you find in this in Eyes Have It. Now, irony, girls, is a strange aspect of a situation. It opposes the reality and the appearance. Ruskin Bond's The Eyes Have It is ironical from the very beginning. If you really go through the story and understand it very well, then you will find it's very true that the story has been very ironical from the very beginning. Now, at the very beginning, we find that though the young girl's mother advised her, remember what was her advice? Her advice was not to speak to strangers. Her mother had advised her to avoid speaking to strangers. But here lies the irony that she had a very striking conversation with the narrator. The narrator described Missouri and the landscape outside very beautifully. Remember those lines where he had said that the hills are covered with white dahlias. The sun is delicious, and at night you can sit in front of a log fire and drink a little brandy. Most of the tourists have gone, and the roads are quiet and almost deserted. A very beautiful description given by a blind person, and it's very hard to imagine that. So, despite his blindness, which a sighted person may have failed to do, that makes it very ironical. The third thing is that is to be noted is that every effort that the narrator from the beginning has made to hide his own blindness has been in vain. And that's very true. He made a lot of efforts, but he made very silly, careless mistakes too, which he related as, then I made a very big mistake. Okay, so every effort, every little effort that the narrator has made to hide his own blindness was completely in vain. Now, the young woman would not have known he was blind, regardless of the narrator's actions, isn't it? She would not have known that. The narrator was happy not to be revealed of his blindness by the girl. But here lies the true fact that it is ironical that he was also duped by the blind girl. And lastly, in an ironical way, the story is narrated through the eyes of the blind narrator, isn't it? So, can you just bring out the irony in the story now? There are a number of things from the very beginning that hinted that yes, there lies irony in the very short story that Ruskin Bond has just written. Okay, we go to the next line. She was an interesting girl, I said. Can you tell me, did she keep her hair long or short? Another bland question that this person asks. Any person who can see will never ask a co traveler about the hair of that girl, isn't it? So, again, a big mistake. Can you tell me, did she keep her hair long or short? Now, this might also be important. These are the little punches in the story, girls, but it is very important that the narrator does not change his opinion of the young woman when he's talking to the man in the compartment. Remember, the new co traveler said that she was quite an attractive one. The word attractive did not visit with the narrator. Okay? He could not take that. He kept to his own word and he said she was an interesting girl. And I hope you all remember that at the very beginning he had remarked to the girl that she had an interesting what? Interesting face. Yes. So here we find that despite the new co-traveler telling him that she was quite attractive, the narrator did not change his opinion. He was quite stubborn one. Rather than agreeing with the man and suggesting that the young woman was pretty, the narrator sticks to his original appraisal that the young woman had an interesting face. Though, again, ironically, he was unable to see. Now, until the end of the story, there was no reason either for us or the narrator to suspect that there was anything wrong with the girl. And it comes as a surprise for the narrator as well as to the readers to come with the reality, to accept the reality when the new passenger points out the worth of eyes by saying she had beautiful eyes, but they were of no use to her as she was completely blind. Mark that line, girls. She had beautiful eyes, but they were of no use to her as she was completely blind. Here the narrator comes in terms with the reality, right? Now the interplay of metaphors of vision and blindness, girls, if you have read stories in literature, it's a very popular theme in literature. There's always an interplay between the vision and blindness. So we can all agree that the story The Eyes Have It, written by Ruskin Bond, contains all the features of Bond's art. A known setting, a search for beauty, a human frailty, humor, and irony explored in very simple language, you might say, isn't it? In a very simple language and written with a short range of contexts. It reveals and written within a very short range of context, it reveals a well chosen fragment of life. Now, there are certain lines which are very important in the sentence, girls, in the story, girls. That is, uh, you can get a question like this also, that briefly discuss or describe the character of the narrator. Okay, you have to go through the story very well in order to define the character of that narrator. Or you might get that, um, uh, do you think that the narrator got infatuated with the girl? Yes, very truly. And you have very strong lines to support that. So do find that out too. Another important question is, um, can all other senses compensate the lack of vision? Now, this is a topic of debate, also, you might say, that can all other senses of a human being compensate the lack of vision? And you have to just answer that through the story, The Eyes Have It. A very important question again is that bring out the irony in the short story, The Eyes Have It. Okay, bring out the irony. And I think I have said more than enough just to discuss that. So go through the story very well, and I hope you will find all answers to every question that you may find when you flip through the pages of your test paper. Hope you all enjoyed the story, because I have really tried to deal with it very thoroughly, and really hope of meeting you all very soon in the classroom, as we all know that you are missing that very much. But before that, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.